I think it's going to be positive. We'll, of course, see, as the President of the United States said, if the Iranians are willing to negotiate in good faith, we're certainly willing to extend the open hand. If they're going to try to play us, then they're going to find that the negotiating team is not that receptive. So we're going to try to have a positive negotiation. The President has gave us some pretty clear guidelines, and we're going to see.
Vice President Vance laying out expectations for talks with Iran as he arrives in Pakistan this morning. Joining us to discuss, former ambassador to the United Nations for President George W. Bush and United Against Nuclear Iran CEO and founder Mark Wallace. So great to see you this morning, Mark. Thank you for joining us. So first of all, just kind of set this up for us. What are you expecting to see over the next couple of days out of Pakistan?
Well, I think, first of all, thank you for having me on, and good morning. Look, I think Vice President Vance really summed up quite well what we would call the Trump doctrine. I think President Trump, and actually Vice President Vance used a phrase that was first used by President Obama, was extending a hand of diplomacy and said, we're ready to do a deal, meaning here are the elements of a deal that we need. We're ready to negotiate in good faith. But the difference is really, for the first time in 47 years, President Trump is willing to back that up with a military option if Iran does what it usually does, delay or obfuscate, or actually not even attend the negotiations. It's interesting, even the players that appear to have come from Iran to attend these negotiations, and it looks like that leadership is a little bit uncertain and maybe even fractured, but it's interesting who actually showed up from Iran.
Do you think that Iran realizes that President Trump does still have his finger on the trigger?
Well, I think that if the Trump doctrine isn't clear by name as the Trump doctrine, all you have to do is look at this presidency so far. President Trump has made clear, for example, in Venezuela and other places, that he means business. If he is absolutely ready to make a deal, and if he don't make a deal, he's holding firm to his terms and says, look, we will pursue our imperatives militarily if necessary. It actually very much reminds me of President Reagan negotiating with Mikhail Gorbachev during the fall of the Soviet Union.
All right, I want to play a quick clip of President Trump talking about what he wants out of these negotiations. Watch this.
What would a good deal look like for you?
No nuclear weapon, number one. You know, I think it's already been regime change, but we never had that as a criteria. No nuclear weapon. That's 99% of it.
Strait of Hormuz as well?
Yeah, but that'll open up automatically. The answer is yes, but the Strait will open up. If we just left, the Strait's going to, otherwise they make no money. So we do have other countries coming up, and they'll help out, but we don't use it.
It is kind of remarkable. A lot of Trump detractors have tried to obfuscate what Trump has laid out from the beginning that he wants out of this campaign. But President Trump has remained pretty clear about what he wants out of this campaign.
He has, and in various really talking point moments, he's done long form as well. He's laid out no nuclear weapons, no more advanced ballistic missiles, no more ballistic missiles that can reach the United States, restrictions on their drone program, limiting their terrorist proxies, and frankly, ending the tax that has been the Strait of Hormuz for 47 years, an incredible drag on the global economy. He's laid all of those things out at various times and then packaged them up. Clearly, Iran's pursuit of a nuclear weapon in combination with their ballistic missiles is a threat to our allies and partners in the region, and really, in the short term, if allowed to continue, a threat to the United States of America.
Yeah, obviously, you know the United Nations very well. Are you surprised by the degree to which so many of these countries who have such vital interests in the Strait of Hormuz have simply just walked away and said, yeah, we're not getting involved in this?
No, I do think, look, I'm a devoted Atlanticist and a consummate defender of NATO, but I am very disappointed. When you look at the way our NATO and European allies sought help with Ukraine, which I support as well, when Iran was launching some 6,000 Shahed drones with Russia at Ukraine and Europe, and the Europeans took until January this year even to designate the IRGC. Right. and really have said, participated in no material way. But look, you just did an incredible package. I've been riveted by the television of our space program. There is one nation that has the ability militarily to do all these things, and that's us. And really our European allies, they should be in a coalition with us. And they should offer more, and hopefully they're spending more in their defense budget.
Right.
But we have to be serious. They should at least be their name.
Indeed. Mark Wallace, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.